moving on here. One final big topic for the show today. There's a new Bethesda studio in Montreal. Holy cow. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
So, right now, what are they going to be up to? Well, we know they're going to make video games for PCs and mobiles and consoles. It looks like they're making video games.
Yeah.
What could they be up to? What would you like to see these guys work
Can
on?
only be one thing.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Right.
Fallout Shelter 2.
Well, there are some significant ties in that studio to Fallout Shelter. Actually, some of the talent in that studio. But
ESO didn't work out. They don't.
What? They're giving out $1 million though.
ESO didn't work out, and they, I think, are realizing as a studio that they have these two massive franchises, and that they may not be it may not be super sustainable as a business model to be like, we're going to bring out one big important game every 5 to 6 years, and I think they need a second team so that they can concurrently keep both Fallout and the Elder Scrolls on a relatively standard, 3 to 4 year development cycle. So I think that Bethesda Montreal is working on.
Does that take
Elder
away
Scrolls.
from the hype, though?
so you think this is you think it's Elder Scrolls game?
Yep.
I don't think so.
Does that take away from the hype of the games, considering that I'm pretty sure a good portion of that's like, we've been waiting so long for this other game to come out?
Sure. I mean, people will be. It's a good point. I mean, people will be less. Part of why people are so we're so worked up and pent up for a Fallout 4 is because it had been so long since Skyrim. So that's true to a certain extent. But I just don't think in the current climate of the video game industry, one game every 6 or 7 years is a model on which you can sustain a studio.
I also don't think that hype has anything really to do. I mean, in some circumstances, yeah, if it's been a really long time since a game, then maybe the hype will have increased. But I think mostly what it comes down to is quality, right? Like, look at Halo 5, right? Halo is a franchise that comes out every 3 years. Every mainline game is 3 years, and that still has huge amounts of hype behind it.
Call of Duty every
Because,
year, and it still builds up. So.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, people are still hyped for those games and I think it's not because of the development time or how long it was since the last iteration, but because the games are really good and they do something really interesting for that audience. So
I see your point. I do think that Bethesda benefits a little more from that distance, maybe. And again, I can't prove this at all. I know that I'm more excited about Bethesda games because of their consistent quality, but also because of the gaps between them. My full thoughts on this are a matter of angry public record. Or not. I wasn't angry, but many who read were. But yeah, I do feel like the spaces between between have helped them avoid sequelitis. I'm very, very happy with what we've got from them. I don't know what I love the idea of a new studio. I prefer they'd be working on a whole new property, but I also understand they want to make money. But
yeah, I mean, we're living in a culture where now it's all franchise all the time, right?
Yeah.
Or all blockbuster all the time.
But they have a name that can help but help change that cycle. It doesn't have to be sequelitis all the time. It doesn't have to be just because we know that this name makes bang buck. We can make different ones and still kind of probably benefit.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. It's you are right about the sequelitis in culture.
you are
But
wrong.
I just want to put on that producer hat, and I hate doing it. But if I'm the executive producer of Bethesda, and you're a creative person, you come up to me, you're like, I want to make this new IP. I'm going to be like, why don't you make another Fallout game? Or why don't you make another
Fallout and Elder Scrolls would
game?
not exist if that one person didn't go up and say, hey, I want to create this new IP, though. So,
but
that was a different time. We could make way more money just on the name alone. My point
for
is,
the reason we will never stop having all these movies that are just franchises and games that just continue all these things.
If you pull off the case study for where it does work, it doesn't always work out. It often doesn't work out. But then Rockstar didn't have to make Red Dead, and they did. And, I mean, they did not have to make that game. Totally. And it's we're going to make something totally new, and wowie. I mean, in my opinion, it's the best thing they've ever made.
Yeah, a lot of people share that, too. I'm not saying I'm against new things. Obviously, I mean, you all know me. I fight for new things more than anyone else. But at the same time, it's super difficult to justify new IPs from a creative standpoint when the bottom line is what matters in the industry.
But the bottom line will ultimately, I fear, be... I mean, look what happened to Square Enix with the oversaturation of Final Fantasy spinoffs and sequels. I mean, it eventually choked their relevance.
Totally. But I don't think we're anywhere near that point with Bethesda.
But why wait till you choke it? Like that's
because by the time they choke it, they will have made billions of dollars. and like that's all.
I'm imagining
anyone
you like
really
Baby
cares
Herman
about.
right now. Like that's the image.
Yeah, I mean, see, that's the thing is like to make to draw the analogy to the film
Yeah.
industry. Like I think superhero fatigue is coming a lot sooner than 2025, which is when the last Marvel movie we know on the slate, right? I think we'll be fed up long before that. But in that time, they will have made billions upon billions of dollars, and they will have we'll all get sick of it, and we'll be like, "Damn you, Marvel!" But they'll just be laughing because
I'm
in
already
that
there.
meantime,
Yeah, I got there. But you do have a very good point, Vince.
And I think what's important to keep in mind is that, Jared, is that if you want them to create new things, you want them to take risks on new things. I think I want that too. In order for a studio of that size and stature to do that, though, they have to grow their profile.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They can't. You can't make one game every 7 years, and then after that, the latest 7-year cycle, be like, you know what? Let's bet the next 7 years on one brand new game.
Yeah.
What you have to do instead is say, you know what? We have a steady stream of reliable hits that we know are going to bring in money, and that gives us the wiggle room to take a risk on something else. So if you're producing an Elder Scrolls every 6 years, and on the off three between Fallout every 6 years, so it's like every 3 years is another big. And then you support that with regular, DLC updates and so that they continue to be a revenue stream for you, just like they've done with the other Elder Scrolls games and the other Fallout games in the modern era. Then maybe you create enough of a revenue stream that you can go and say, you know what, let's take this third team and let's explore another idea. And if it succeeds, great. If it fails, there's still a regular stream of Fallout and Elder Scrolls money coming in. So you don't get to take the big risk until you have a solid foundation.
Yeah.
And it sounds weird to say Bethesda doesn't have a solid foundation when they're so established, but the reality is they're established on the idea that that game that comes out every 7 years is gangbusters, and if it's not, then they go away overnight.
Case in point, Irrational, right? I
Sure.
love BioShock Infinite, and I love BioShock, and I think Ken Levine's a genius, and I love everyone at that studio, but you can't take 7 years to make a game. Like, no matter how well it sells, unless you're Rockstar. But that's something that, like... but that's the thing is, like...
I don't think Bethesda...
They're not there.
They're in a different situation.
They're not there yet.
They're in a very
Like,
different situation.
only Rockstar is in that category.
Yeah.
Like...
Well, Rockstar sold. What is it? The
35?
50? No, it's up in the 50s now, I believe.
Oh, I meant 35 for consoles. Like,
Oh, okay,
When it initially released on last gen, it did like 35 million copies,
Yeah.
and then once it got ported to next gen and then released on PC,
It's well into the
50 or
50s now.
something. Like Infinite was great, widely received, widely acclaimed critically and commercially. Not anywhere near that level. And you have to have that level of success if you want to be able to just take chances willy-nilly. Otherwise, you have to build it into a business strategy that makes sense for if it fails.
Right. Yeah.
Like, do you think Ubisoft could have taken a chance on a game like Child of Light if it weren't for Assassin's Creed?
Totally the case in point. Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
My point is, like, if Bethesda wants to take a chance, great. Bethesda is a team of really, really great players, all sorts of incredibly creative people out there, but you have to make sure that whatever business strategy you have going forward, it allows for a failure.
But
and I don't think one game every 5 years is that failure. That safety net.
All these arguments make sense. My counterpoint being, look what's happened to Assassin's Creed. I mean, Syndicate was good, and as near as I can tell, no one cares.